Hey, hello, everybody. This is Jeff Reinebold. It is, as we always make it, a football Monday, the day after a big Sunday. And Michael, a day after a big trip to Prague for you. Are you feeling okay, my man?
Um, yeah, I've been saving this voice for the day, and for anyone that listened to Pro Football Ireland's Monday Morning Football podcast. Oof, yeah, that wasn't good. But no, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fresh. As of tonight, I will have watched every primetime game, every minute, every play. The under parts of my eyes are starting to freak out, but I'm feeling good. Apart from the whole football sense of it, Ireland's on the verge of complete Armageddon. But bar that, we're good. It's fantastic. Jeff, I have just got one question for you before we start off. Obviously, people watching live, get your comments in. If you're listening in the podcast, massive welcome. Are you ready for tonight, Jeff?
I am, but before we talk about results, and don't even look ahead to next week, we got to get a plug in here for 888 Sport, which is our sponsor, and they are the official NFL betting partner in both Ireland and the UK. And it's good that we have a betting partner because, Michael, I am killing it in my selections.
Are
So
you?
I'm just throwing this out there. Like, the Cowboys got me. That was one that I didn't see coming. But other than that, I think I picked them all. I even picked against my Raiders and got a win. And you just didn't have any faith in the Chargers, and they went up into Minnesota and took care of business. It wasn't pretty, but hey, they don't ask you how; they just ask how many. So I'm on a 2 week roll, Mike.
Jeff Reinebold Tour, Ireland, Glasgow, Manchester, linktr.ee/Reinebold, top of the screen or in the chat for the podcasters. Get your comments and tell us where you're from, or else Jeff will kill me. Jeff, are you ready for this tonight?
Monday Night Football! Monday Night on ESPN!
I'm ready any night, every night, and all night for football. I don't care, man. It's all good with me. But again, we had some amazing games. Do you want to go? Do you want to look back or do you want to look forward? How do you want to do it?
Well, the title of the YouTube video for people clicking on the YouTube video for the first time, hello, how's it going? Is are the Miami Dolphins now the front runners to win the Super Bowl? They're so good. Did you
Would
see their
you
EPA per play like yesterday?
would you slow down a bit, man? Like you were like you got to slow down. It's a long season, and I mean it's a long season. Now, what I think we do know, however, is that if Miami is healthy, they are really, really scary on offense. Because, if you think about this, Mike, I don't know, there's been thousands of NFL games played since the league went into existence, and only 4 times in the history of the National Football League has anybody scored 70 points in a game. And it hasn't been since 1966 was the last one. But Mike, 70 points against your Broncos. And our guest, our friend of this show, middle linebacker Alex Singleton, he's just got to be shaking it. I mean, they looked awful on defense.
Well, I mean, you mentioned Alex Singleton. I'll go back even more. Nick Ferguson's a great friend of yours. I don't want to bore people, but I'll say this. When you've got DJ Jones, when you've got Randy Gregory, Alex Singleton, Josie Drill, Pat Surtain, Justin Simmons, Kareem Jackson. Now, forget not just about yesterday, but the first 3 games of the season. That's inexcusable to give up 70 points, and that stems to the DC. Vance Joseph has to go. And that's all I have to say about it, because I'm at the point now where, Jeff, I'm pulling whatever hair follicles I have left in my head out, man. It's gone. It's just like, what the hell was that yesterday? What was that yesterday?
Well, it was
70
bad.
points and 16 or odd points was with the backups. Like Mike White had a day at one point yesterday. This is a disgrace. And how Sean Payton could stand in that press conference after that game and be rude to media in his position, catch a grip. But Vance Joseph, how we're sitting at 2 p.m. Mountain on a Monday and Vance Joseph still in the job is genuinely beyond me. But then I realized it's the Denver Broncos.
So. First of all right, Peyton, obviously, and I'm not making excuses for the guy at all, but they were humiliated on TV. I mean, humiliated internationally, right? He's got more pride than that. He's more competitive than that. Now, you talk about Vance Joseph. Vance Joseph played for me once upon a time. He was a corner for me in NFL Europe. And Vance is a smart guy. He's a good football coach. This is now the second time he's run into trouble in Denver, in terms of what he's been able to put on, product he's been able to put on the field, both as a head coach and now as a coordinator. Obviously, this does not bode well for his future, but I think for them to pull a plug on a coordinator after 3 weeks in the season, I think Peyton will take more charge of it, but he's an offensive guy and he doesn't want to be bothered with the defense. He wants the defense to play well enough that they can win, but he wants to win on offense. Here's the thing, Mike, there's got to be something there because you mentioned all of the players that they have, and they do have a ton of good defensive players, at least on paper. But those players right now aren't playing well on the field. And the game's played on grass and AstroTurf. It's not played on paper. And so the Broncos have got to get that thing straightened out because it is bad. It was awful last year, and I don't see much improvement in it this year.
I don't think I think we should spend time tonight to talk about the Dolphins in different games. So I'll just say this for my last piece in the Broncos. I think, first off, Russell Wilson should be scoring more than 20 points. I think the Dolphins were superb, and maybe we'll go into the Dolphins next year, Jeff. But for me, based upon this team and what fans have been through in the last 7 years, I think there needs to be an action as big as letting Vance Joseph go. I think fans have had enough. I've had enough. I don't care who we play next week. I could care less. And when you get to that point, that's sad. And that shouldn't be happening. Alex is a great guy. I'd say he's hurting big time today. I feel for him.
Well, everybody's hurting in that building right now. Players are hurting. You can't imagine how embarrassing that is and how everybody that is going to hit you with a text and what's going on and what's wrong and all this. And, Keith Kelleher just sent a message that, and he makes a great point. Remember, Waddle didn't even play in the game, right? But this is just an indication when you look at it the other way of just how potent the Dolphins can be. Right.
Jeff, in your time in the league, I don't mean to cut him, but in your time in this sport, have you seen an offense? Like, granted, it's a long season, but what they done yesterday, have you seen an offense as good as that in terms of what they did?
Again, they scored 70 points, right? And again, that's an incredible accomplishment in the National Football League. But the quarterback you saw all the good out of Tua in the first half. Right. I mean, he was unconscious in the first half. He was having one of those games that if he threw it around behind his back or over his shoulder, it would have been a completion. And then they're a track team, Mike. We've known that all along. And the Shane kid that they drafted out of Texas A&M has just added more speed to it. Waddle's not even playing right now. They're better up front. This is a great football team. Mike McDaniel is a great football coach, and he did a great job of scheming. And the Broncos didn't have any answers. And then they got their spirit broken and they like I said, they just put their sword down and you can't have that. And certainly that's something they've got to get fixed. But for the Dolphins, it's on to Buffalo. Let's go, because you're going to go up now and you're going to ready to make that game meant 2 points on the stat sheet, right? In the standings. What they got to do now, if you're the Dolphins, now is the time to get a statement win against the Bills. Because the Bills right now, with what's happened with the Jets, they've imploded. We see that the Patriots can't score on offense. So it's going to be right now a 2-horse race between the Bills and the Dolphins in that division. And the Bills will be much better coached on defense. They're much better talent on defense. And I think that this will be a real test for both teams.
Let's come back and talk about the Jets in a few minutes because Robert Saleh has said something in the last few minutes. For people watching live, we'll get comments in the second part of this episode. Thank you very much for doing so. Let us know where you're from as well. YouTube comments, Pro Football Ireland, or type in Jeff Reinebold Show. We can put them on the screen or hit us up on Twitter or X, as Elon calls it now. Cowboys, Jeff, we got to talk some Cowboys losing to the Cardinals. You mentioned at the start, surprising manner in which they lost. But then to see the Cardinals really gather around after the game and come together as a team when they were being so brought down by the media makes you feel like, well, if James Conner can have a day against Dallas, 100 yards in the day, a touchdown, Marquise Brown had a great day, Michael Wilson had a great day, Joshua Dobbs had a serviceable day. But the Cowboys, when push came to shove on Sunday, couldn't get it done. Is this the Cowboys team that we're going to see in 3 months' time when it actually matters?
Again, this has been the Cowboys' history. They come out and just when you think that they're over the hump, just when you think that they're going to be a complete football team, just when you think, that they'll take care of business, they'll go into, on the road against a second level opponent and do what Coach Vermeil used to always tell us to do, which was keep losing teams losing. And then they go in there and they stub their toe. And, it's the way they lost, Mike, to me, because, the Cardinals just beat them on a line of scrimmage. They ran right at Micah Parsons. They didn't let him destroy the game. They threw the ball, got it out of Dobbs' hands fast. They played from ahead. And when the Cowboys were able to get into the red zone, because they moved the ball between the 20s, but when they got into the red zone, I thought they did a great job of scheming the Cowboys because the Cowboys wanted to throw it when they got in there to get their touchdowns. And they just said, we're going to rush forward. We're going to play saturation coverage. When you get down in the red zone, the field is so small that it's really, the windows are really, really tight. And they frustrated Dak. And then at the end, when he needed to make a play, he made a horrendous read in the red zone and threw it right to the Arizona Cardinal linebacker. And that was the game. But you got, this is pro football. They're all good, right? They're all good. Now, the Cardinals aren't near as good as the Cowboys personnel wise, but Cowboys had 2 starters out on the offensive line. That hurt them. And I thought Arizona came to play. They were physical. And, Jonathan Gannon, I don't know Jonathan Gannon. I've seen some of his stuff on, interviews and those kinds of things. And he's a guy that doesn't exactly make me want to run through a wall. But he had that team ready to play. And at the end, I agree with you. I thought that the kind of the celebration that the Cardinal players had was really touching because those are guys that have been taken a lot of abuse in the media, and they on a national stage went out and punched the bully right in the mouth and took their lunch money back.
Fred said in the comments, Cowboys with 9 penalties, I think, in the first half. More performances like that will get someone fired. Man, football's back. I love it. The Cowboys are back. Here we go. Bring it on.
Well, you know, Fred makes a great point. I think the Cowboys ended up with like 12 penalties. You can't. What's that a sign of, right? What's that indicative of? It's indicative of a team that's not ready to play, a team that's not focused, a team that's not concentrating. And I'm sure, and this is what happens so many times in a place like Dallas, where you're the center of the media net world, right? Dallas in Texas, and that Texas is a crazy football state. And everybody wants to talk about the Cowboys. You win 2 games and everybody wants to tell you you're going to the Super Bowl. How do you keep the focus? How do you keep them on task? And that's the toughest thing, especially when you got an owner who is out in the media talking about, how good you are. And, it's never as good as it looks, and it's never as bad as it looks. So I expect the Cowboys to come back, but for Arizona, at least for 1 week, they get a little redemption.
Questions coming in about 15 minutes, folks, for those who are watching live. Had this conversation in Monday Morning Football, Jeff, and I feel like I need to have it to you because you're a guy that's worked in football for so long. When you're the New York Jets and you have such talent on both sides of the ball and you're close, why the hell do you stick with Zach Wilson? Robert Saleh again today, just as the show was starting, says he's their guy. Do you think it gets to a point, Jeff? And look, the Patriots defense was superb on Sunday. It was fantastic to watch. But do you think it gets to a point where it's inaccuracy? Because like Salah should just look at some free agent guys out there, never mind guys they can trade for that are better. They're more serviceable. Hell, Andy Dalton went to Seattle yesterday and put 20 points up. I like Andy Dalton. Why can't they go after someone and bring them in? Wilson, surely, in my opinion, is not ready. They're wasting their time here. Go get someone. No?
Okay. All right. Now, you say that, right? And I don't take exception with anything you said. Think about this. When you're the head of the organization, like Robert Saleh is, and you stand up in front of the media, you have to understand the weight of everything you say, right? So until they have, and if you think, or if anybody thinks that Joe Douglas hasn't been burning the phone lines up and not sleeping at night trying to find, a replacement, an upgrade, first of all, we don't know where they are in the cap. You have no idea, who the free agents are that are out there, but you got to weigh all of those factors in. And yeah, you can pull out statistics that say this guy's better than this guy and all that. You're going through you got to get a guy in, you got to teach him an offense, and you got to get him ready to play, especially if he hasn't had any training camp reps, hadn't had an off-season program. This is not Madden, right? This is not freaking Madden. This is not collecting football cards. This is pro football, right? It's hard. It ain't easy to like go get one. You can't drive down freaking Madison Avenue in New York and pick up quarterbacks on the street corner. It don't work that way. It's just not that way. So yeah, I understand do I agree with Robert Saleh that they have confidence in Wilson? No. But what is he going to say? Here it is, guys. We don't have any confidence in our quarterback. He sucks. So why don't we just take the week off? Right? You can't play. You can't live like that when you're coaching. You got to, until you have better, he's what you're playing with. And you better find a way for him to play better. Right?
Is there one guy out there that you would take?
Well, I think there's a lot of guys out there I'd at least kick the tires on. Right? Because you mentioned, I don't know what Matt Ryan's situation is. If he's free, I don't, there are guys, their names, but their names, and you don't know, you have no idea if they're in shape. You have no idea if they're contractually bound. You have no idea what it would cost for them to come in, so I just think that we're fans and we love the game and we love our teams and we want to see, but I'm just telling you, from a guy who sat on the other side of this thing for a lot of years, it ain't that easy.
A couple of Super Bowl MVPs are available in Joe Flacco and Nick Foles. So
I mean, and there's two more names, right? And, but like Joe Flacco is how old? When they had Joe Flacco, right? Nick Foles, other than that freaky year he had in Philadelphia, how many opportunities has he been handed the keys to the offense and can't get it done? Now, that doesn't mean he's terrible, but at least the devil is better than the one you don't. But here's what I think, right? If I had a bitch like you got a bitch right now, right? If I had a complaint, it would be, you have to find a way for that kid to succeed, because what you're asking him to do, he can't do. He can't. We've seen it enough now, right? He struggles in the pocket. He struggles to read. You've got to find ways to simplify the game for him. It's just the way it is. And if that means turn around and hand the ball to Breece Hall 45 times a game, right, or whomever, that's what you got to do. But to think that you're going to somehow, he's going to morph into a finished quarterback, that ain't the case. But it's on you as coaches to figure it out.
I hit the wrong button there for people in the video. I mean, we have to say it very quickly, just the inevitable social media discussion point when you've got potentially Zach Wilson, 2 first-round picks for Kirk Cousins in his last year in Minnesota, 35 years of age. Go and win a ring, Kirk. Go and do it, my man.
Well, there's all that talk out there, right? What about Russell Wilson? What about? Listen, let me explain another thing to everybody that's paying attention to this. There's 32 teams in that league. You're just one of them. And the other 31 teams, they don't want you to get better. They're not going to do you any favors, right? That doesn't, again, same thing. It doesn't work that way. So they know you're crippled. They know you're hurt. They know you need a quarterback. They know all that stuff. And so if we were making a deal, who's in charge now? Right? The Vikings could sit back and say,
well, the Vikings are in a situation where
we can talk about but what about
their seasons going downhill, but they could be in a situation where they get a lot of draft capital and they rebuild very quickly.
Michael, you're exactly right. But two people it's not here one more time. It's not Madden, right? Both parties have to agree, right? So if you're the Vikings, if you're the general manager of the Vikings and the Jets call you and they say, we'd like to inquire about Kirk Cousins. Oh, okay. That'll be 3 first-rounders, right? Your firstborn son and the Brooklyn Bridge. That's what it's going to, they're not going to, here you go, Jets. You're the darlings of the media and you were on Hard Knocks. So go ahead. You can have our quarterback. Right? Nuh-uh. Supply and demand economics, Michael. Supply and demand economics. There's a very small supply and a very big demand. So the supplier, he makes the money.
Questions coming up in a few minutes, about 10 minutes. Jeff, I have a question for you. Generation-defining Usher is the halftime performer at the Super Bowl. You, like me, must be absolutely buzzing right now. You a big Usher fan?
No. I'm not anti-Usher. I'm not. But I'm not.
No, look, Jeff. We're 22 minutes into the show, so I think we can say this. I was like, Usher? Is this 2009? What's going on? Like, Usher?
See, you're right. He's generation defining, but it isn't this generation. But that's okay. I'm not. But here's my thing, Mike. Like, I'm a football guy, right? And so if I have to hear one more thing about Taylor Swift being at the Chiefs game to see Travis Kelce, I'm going to puke. Mike, all over the computer. I'll puke all over the computer. I swear.
Oh, no, Jeff. Are you not a Swiftie, no?
How is that relevant in the world?
Well, I would argue straight up, it propels the NFL into popular culture to a certain type of person, regardless of gender, who would not watch football. And now he's going, well, I might watch this because Taylor's watching it. And if you're wondering why, Jeff, it's because hotel rooms are €1,200 a night in Dublin when she's there. I'm like, genuinely, I'm surprised she's not in the Super Bowl.
I'm not. She's an icon. I get it. But I don't care. I don't care. I couldn't care if Travis Kelce's dating, I don't know, who. It doesn't matter to me who, because I don't care. What I care about is, can he play football? Is he a good tight end? Can he score in the red zone? Is he Mahomes' guy? Is his knee healthy? Those things I care about. Who he's dating means like, what? Get a life.
I have to thank the social media algorithms last night because that kept us going last night. I'll not lie that. Thank you, Taylor. We talked about the early window. So I'm going to talk just a couple of topics that we didn't touch on in our previous podcast, Jeff. Steelers beat the Raiders. Kenny Pickett looking better.
Called it.
Me or you or both of us?
No, I did. You said no way. You said the Steeler offense wouldn't be able to do it.
I picked the Steelers to win the game. I did not think the offense would be as good as that, but they still, like, Najee Harris, the running game is still not as effective. But man, to go into a game against the Raiders and perform like that is impressive. They've got the Texans next. Then they've got the Ravens. Jimmy Garoppolo on the other side entering the concussion protocol. It was an interesting Sunday Night Football game for a neutral.
Yeah, and I'm gonna tell you something, Mike. I think after the show, we ought to call the Nevada State Police, right, and put out a missing persons report on Hunter Renfrow, because he is nowhere to be seen in that offense. I swear, it's like he went to Vegas and he's out there. He's like Jimmy Hoffa underneath the cactus somewhere out in the desert. Where is Hunter
Like a
Renfrow?
blank space for him somewhere.
3 targets in 3 games for a Pro Bowler. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it.
Man, in a good way, you're on one tonight. I'm loving this. It's good. It's good. It was mad because it was like, I thought the Raiders, and like Jeff, you're a Raiders fan. You put a lovely tweet last night saying you're going to watch your Raiders. I'm never doing that impression, but to see the amount of Steelers fans in that stadium last night in the home opener for the Raiders, what the hell's going on?
What?
Just like there's barely any Raiders fans in that stadium.
No. You have to understand, right? And you should know this because you're a Pittsburgh guy, right? You work for that team. There are very few teams in football, like very, very few, that travel the way Pittsburgh Steelers fans travel. And when those Steelers, Mike, and I think it's a phenomenon that you have to almost know a little bit about mid-America history. Like Cleveland, the same thing happens. It's really true in Pittsburgh. So many jobs left those, what we call Rust Belt cities, the big industrial cities in the Northeast, and went south in the 70s and 80s and 90s, but their fandom went with them. Now, another generation of Steeler fans grew up in Pittsburgh, but the Pittsburgh Steeler fans throughout the Southwest, or when you go to, I've seen the Steelers play in both Houston and in Dallas, and it looks like half the stadiums waving terrible towels. It's just they have such an incredible fan base, and I think we'll sense that and really see that when the Steelers come over and play a game in Aviva or Croak or wherever they choose to play, because I'm confident that that's going to be the case and that they will come, even if it's just a preseason game. I think you'll see an incredible amount of Steeler fans travel.
I was getting excited over Taylor. Now, don't be getting me excited over that as well, man. Adam Schefter but he spoke with Peter O'Reilly with NFL International, and they've all but talked about Madrid happening very soon. Esta de la Loca, that is going to be. Have you seen the Burna Boy since it was done up? It's incredible. Look, have you seen it?
No.
It's like, imagine like a fancy toilet bowl, but it's even better than the fancy toilet bowl. It's all metallic, and there's not a roof over it, but they've got the field is completely retractable. I have no association with the NFL in this comment. They'll play a game there next year. They'll play a game in between the Germany games again. Madrid is going to be absolutely mental next year, and I am all here for it. Jeff, we have to talk about the Packers. Wow. What a comeback, man. What a comeback against the Saints. They were down and out. Unbelievable.
You know what? It was 17-0 down. And you come back, you talk about resilient football team, and really, really, really a breakthrough, I think, for Jordan Love, because this was a game that he was behind. It wasn't easy for him like it was against Chicago. The Saints have a great defense. You're down 17, and you find a way to get your team back in and win a game. That's the stuff that legends are made of. That's the stuff that he was expected to be able to provide as the next in line, in that chain of, great quarterbacks, Favre and Rodgers, and now Jordan Love is making the plays that those guys made that cemented their history in Green Bay.
It was so impressive to see. So impressive to see. I feel like if I say anything, I'll jinx Green Bay forever. So they're doing good. And the Saints, I felt bad for Derek Carr going down. Like, hopefully he's okay because they've had a really, really good start to the season. Let's see. Finally, because I don't want to get in trouble for not talking about it, Jeff, before questions, Colts beating the Ravens on the road. The historic battle.
All right, I'm asterisk on that one, right? Because the Ravens were missing 7 starters. That's incredible. And the fact that they were able to play as well as they did, their defense is really, really good. But, that offensive line was a shadow of what it normally is. And I'm not making excuses. And certainly Indianapolis was playing with their backup quarterback. And there were a lot of things about this game that evened up the score. But I think what I did see out of Indianapolis that I liked is they know how to play complementary football. The offense didn't do too much for Minshew. They ran the ball. They're back to kind of their roots a little bit, and their defense is very, very good. So again, a huge win because anytime you beat what I would consider a superior team, that's a huge win for you. And so for that coaching staff, who are just getting their program going, this is one they can turn to and to the players and say, hey, listen, now you understand what we're trying to get done when we talk about complementary football, protect the ball, run the ball, play good defense, all that stuff. And so again, I think it's a step in the right direction for Indianapolis. And when they get their quarterback back, they can, I think, open the playbook a little more and continue to grow.
Big thanks to everybody that continues to support Jeff Reinebold Show, Pro Football Ireland, by listening to different podcast feeds. We massively support it. It's time for questions. So this is the end of this podcast. Thank you for listening. Good night. Jeff, I want you to introduce the question segment now as if we've just sailed in.
Oh, this is Jeff Reinebold, and welcome to the Jeff Reinebold Show. I've got my best friend, Mike McQuaid, here, and we are sponsored by 888 Sport, the official betting partner of the National Football League in both Ireland and the UK. And this is the segment where we open the mailbag and we take your questions. And please, when you send in a question, make sure you let us know where you're calling from, and we'll give you a shout out. So, Michael, let's get right to it.
So the first question, Jeff, is from Taylor, who says, so it's going to be forever, or it's going to go down in flames? You can tell me when it's over, if the high was worth the pain. Got a long list of ex-lovers. They'll tell you I'm insane because I love the players and you love the game. I'm only joking. I had to do it. Man, I'm loving the Taylor Swift stuff. I think it's good for the league. I think it's a bit of crack. My sister was texting me saying about Taylor Swift and the Chiefs and stuff. I think it's funny as hell, man. Right? Anyway, I put a tweet out earlier on and I told people that we give away 2 tickets to one of your events, Jeff, lanktr.ee/Reinebold. If they ask a question, people are commenting on YouTube. I'm going to put the Twitter ones out first. Let's go with Gangrene UK. The guys that do, is it, don't tell me. The guy that does the draft picks, I forgot his name now.
He's been on our show. This is going to be a good one because Gangrene probably feels like they're sick right now because it has been a rough 3 weeks in Jetland.
What do the Jets need to do a quarterback? What would you do, Jeff? If you were the GM, what would you do right now?
Well, we talked about this on the Jeff Reinebold Show earlier, the live show. It's so difficult for Joe Douglas because, again, as I said on the other show, everybody knows what you need. It's not a secret, right? And everybody knows how desperate you are. So if anybody has somebody that you have interest in, and you mentioned Kirk Cousins, and I'm sure they've called around to a number of places looking for people, I would not be surprised at all if they haven't had conversations, in Denver for Russell Wilson. Denver certainly would probably like to get out from underneath that contract, and there are a number of things. But all that speculation and just talk until you can put the deal together. And the reality of it is, if you have an asset that they know how desperate the Jets and Woody Johnson are, they pushed all their chips in the middle of the table, and their quarterback got hurt after 4 plays. The second guy's not good enough. Now you can make the decision to go to the third guy, I guess, but if there's a reason he's the third guy. How much are you willing to give up to get a quarterback? Because if you're not willing to give up, you're probably going to have to kiss this season goodbye, because you can see it. He's just not good enough, especially in what the Jets are trying to do right now. If you can't get anybody better, then you have to change what you're doing and play a different style of football, right? And that means you got to win close games. You got to not turn it over. You got to let him do things that he can do, not be in full field reads, not do much drop back, because he just cannot do it right now. And that requires that the coaches, put their egos on the shelf and say, hey, listen, we got to tailor everything we do to this kid. And hopefully they can run the ball enough with Breece Hall and, what should be a better than average offensive line, and throw it just enough to keep everybody honest and win on defense. That's the way they're going to have to win.
Clive Underhill from the UK. Is CJ Stroud the real deal? What a question. Huge game for the Texans on Sunday, beating the Jags. They now have the Steelers in week 4. Man, the Texans are fun to watch. I'll give them that 100%.
Yeah. You know what? I don't know if CJ Stroud is for real yet, because I think, we're way, way too early to make that statement. We've seen guys come in the league and flash early in their career, and then the film gets around the league and people catch up to him. Gardner Minshew was one of those guys. But here's the thing that I would say about the Texans. If you're a Texan fan, you got to feel good about your football team finally after all these years. That was a program that at once upon a time was, in the playoffs and flirted with the Super Bowl and all that other stuff. Went down in the, went really bad for about 3 years. And now they're back and they are improving. And, DeMeco Ryans has been, I think, a real, real positive thing for them after, 2 head coaches that got fired after 1 season. So, obviously Stroud has been positive. They've got good young players. I love Tank Dell. I think, they're going to be better as they get through the season and play more together and more experience and another good draft and free agency and all of that. Then they should be, a team that's a viable team in that division, because that's a division where you can catch up pretty fast.
Quarterback jinxes. How's that? Gardner Minshew and the main man.
Is that you?
Yeah. I was buzzing for Gardner yesterday. We've got a question before we get the YouTube comments, and a guy from Ireland called Hill Bill the Wonder Horse. Lovely name. Hi guys, I'm a Cardinals fan. So what we've seen in 9 of the 12 quarters so far that we can compete, but given the expectation to embrace the tank, what should I be cheering on? Many more close losses, or the hope to win 5 or 6 games and build for next season without the first pick in brackets?
Well, I think, I'm not a big guy on tanking. I'm not a big fan of it. First of all, if you're tanking to get the number 1 pick, then what you're saying is that what you have at quarterback isn't good enough. So are you ready to step away from Kyler Murray? If you are, then maybe that's a strategy. But you also have to understand it's different now with college football quarterbacks than it's ever been. So if the guy at USC is the guy you like, and you talk to his people and they say, we really don't want to come play for somebody that's, as frankly bad as Arizona is right now and in the middle of a full-blown rebuild, are you going to draft him and then have him go back to college? Because he's making millions of dollars in college right now. It's not like the old days where, those guys were anxious to get out because, they weren't making money in the pros. You look now, there are kids in college making more money than Brock Purdy's making for the San Francisco 49ers.
Shedeur Sanders, straight up. Can I just jump in and thank David Jackson for the €10 super sticker? Thank you, David. If you'd like a ticket for Jeff in Limerick, I think you're from around there, let us know and I'll sort that out for you. So thank you very, very much. It's very much appreciated. If you have any problems getting in touch with us, email info@profootball.ie. Gurmy Morgan, thank you very, very much for that.
Thanks, David. Appreciate it, man.
Thank you. I'm sure Jeff will get a Guinness in Vegas with that. What a night, Jeff. What a night. What a night. Thanks to everybody who's putting in comments here and just questions on YouTube. Jer from Ireland. Can a losing culture take hold of an organization? Listening to Gareth Bowles, he just seems broken. Did you see Gareth Bowles yesterday, Jeff?
Yeah, I was really
it's sad to watch, man.
Well, let me just say this. The players and the coaches and everybody in those buildings invest so much in trying to win, right? So much effort, so much time, suffer through so much pain, and all of it comes out in 3 hours on Sunday, right? And if you're not successful, it's an incredibly difficult thing to endure. And, George Allen, their late, great Washington coach and Los Angeles Rams coach, said, when you lose, you die a little bit every Sunday. And there's a lot of truth to that. So that's why I'm not a big fan of guys sticking microphones in players' faces right after an emotional game, a devastating loss like that was, an embarrassing loss. He's just got to find a way. He's just got to find a way to, push his hot button again and come back and, keep firing. But it is true. There are situations where organizations have been bad for so long, so historically down, so much negative energy, so many bad stories, so much negative publicity that players just, it changes you. And, I think when you talk to Dalton Reisner, I think that's one of the things he felt in Denver, that this change in going to Minnesota is like, a breath of fresh air for him.
Our man David Jackson from Zach Go said he's from Limerick. On a separate note, how is the CFL season going for you, Jeff?
David, I understand you're going to be with us in Limerick, so thank you. I saw your note on Twitter. I appreciate that very much. Here's how we're going right now. We are 6-8, and we are in the playoffs right now. We have to win one more game. We play Calgary this weekend. If we beat them, we clinch a playoff berth, and then we're going to have 3 more games to try and get a home playoff game. If we can win out, there's a possibility we could be a home playoff and host a playoff game, which would be huge. And in our league, it's everything. It's just like the NFL. You got to get in the playoffs first. And then from there, you can't win a championship in September. You have to win it in November. And that's in the NFL, you don't win a championship in November, you win it in February. And so everybody in pro football knows that. So, it's fun for me to do this because it gives me a little respite every day to talk to Mike and talk to the fans before I say goodbye and then turn on the film again and be in here for another 6 hours.
And he is in there for another 6 hours. He'd ring me at halftime Monday Night Football, and he's still there. I feel like I've seen that whiteboard and that coat so many times this season. Keith, who's also from Ireland, put a comment in saying the game in Frankfurt is looking better and better. Well, Keith, I applied for credentials today for that game. So if you're going to Mass this weekend, go and light a wee candle for me, will you, please? I'd like to see you there. I'll be in Frankfurt. That's good, Jeff. That game in Frankfurt between the Chiefs and the Dolphins, Henry Hodgson may need to be knighted by the Queen or the King or whoever just for that game. What a freaking game, Jeffrey. How the hell have America not got that game?
It's going to be such a great game to have across the pond, as we say, and to have it in Germany where they love football so dearly. I don't know if you saw this, Mike, but almost 40,000 for the European League of Football championship game between the Rheinfire and Stuttgart. Rheinfire wins, goes undefeated. Jimmy Tomsula, the ex-San Francisco 49ers head coach, coached the team, did a great job. And 40,000 people at a non-NFL game in Germany.
It's pretty cool, isn't it?
It's incredible.
You don't want to go down a discussion point here. I think this is a discussion for an off-season podcast. I think Germany can do that. I think certain countries in Europe can do that. I don't think the UK can do that. And I think that's a massive issue that needs to be looked at in the future. I think it would be great for London to have a team. Let's give that discussion the sort of podcast it deserves.
Yeah, and you know what we'll do when we'll have Patrick Azume, who's the
big dog,
one of my ex-players, who's the the commissioner of that league. We'll have Patrick. I just talked to him this week and asked him if he'd come on the show and talk about his league. He said he'd be happy to. So anytime you want to schedule that, let's do it.
Well, talking about Taylor Swift, Fred Flunk said, lads, Snoop Dogg is playing in Dublin tonight. He was charging €1,200 for a meet and greet for his concert. He said he wouldn't pay it to meet the Dalai Lama. Would you pay €1,200 to meet anyone? Maybe you, Jeff. I'd pay 200. I'd pay €1,200 to meet Tom Brady only if I could sit down and have 15 minutes with him. That's it.
Would you really?
Yeah, because when I spoke to him, like in Munich, I was like, "Oh my Christ, this is actually happening." So like, no, I'd love to do that. Like, I think Brady will be one, or Peyton Manning maybe. But sure, what's €1,200 now anyway? Yeah, sure, the whole thing's away to hell altogether, so it's grand. So is there anybody that you would like to meet?
To be honest with you, I can't think of anybody I'd pay money to go to see. I mean, to say hello and have a picture taken with. I don't know, especially €1,200. But hey, if you got it and you want to do it, I'm not saying it's wrong. That's just I can't. I don't even think about that. So it's like I know, and it wouldn't be Taylor Swift either. Let me just tell you.
Oh my God, Taylor's ruined this NFL season for you, man. I can see it in your face. On that note about paying to see certain people, Jeff's tour is on sale. linktr.ee/Reinebold. Jeff, any final thoughts, my man, before we pop off this week? Well, we'll be live on Thursday as well.
I think the fans got to tune in on Thursday because we have been picking straight winners. I mean, straight winners. And, go to 888 Sport, and the official gambling partner of the National Football League in the UK and Ireland, and sponsor of this show. And we'll give you some hot tips as we look forward to another week in the National Football League.
18 plus, please be gamble aware. Only bet what you can afford, folks. As always, Jeff, great to chat to you. I know we're going to be on Thursday. There will not be a kickoff show for the next 3 weeks because your boy is going to London. Told the wife last night, "What do you mean you're going to London for the next 3 Sundays?" I was like, "I've told you about this. There's football on. I think we'll do like a little pre-game for that Jags Falcons game, Jeff. Have some fun, but there's loads of content coming from that. And obviously we'll be back on Thursday night as well with these picks."
You know what, Michael, if you want to do a live hit before the game, I'll be more than happy to do that with you. It's always good to talk ball with you. And we don't want to lose our Monday and Thursday shows though.
Exactly. And if the Wi-Fi can hold up in Wembley, I'm your man. But we'll see. Because I know, technology for the both of us, it's one thing. Like, if I'm at home, it's fine. But if we're in Wembley's not. Like, Tottenham's so much better. It's so much better. So if you're going this weekend, give us a shout. Let us know. Appreciate the love on YouTube. Appreciate the love on X. You can follow Jeff at Jeff_Reinebold every Monday. Every Thursday. The podcast is Pro Football Ireland, or search Jeff Reinebold Show. Jeff, give us an exit for this lovely podcast.
Before I say aloha, I'm going to use another Hawaiian word. I'm going to say mahalo. And mahalo means thank you. And that's to everybody who's bought a ticket for our tour, whether it's Glasgow, whether it's Manchester, or any of the 6 Irish tour dates we have. Looking forward to meeting you and talking ball, helping raise awareness and help some of the local football organizations around Ireland and in the UK and Scotland. So it's going to be a blast.
Bring it on, Jeff. See you on Thursday night. And folks, for people in the Emerald Isle, James Skehill podcast out Wednesday. We're back Thursday. We'll have some fun. Jeff, chat to you soon, my man.
Aloha.